What's up, everybody? Jason Bain here, your favorite Please Bro Tech. Today I wanted to do something kind of cool, and I'm trying out this guy right here. And I wanted to see if it's possible to do microsoldering through the Apple Vision Pro. I've been playing with this for about a day now, and it's pretty awesome. But I wanted to see if I could be the first person to do microsoldering through it. So here we go. I just realized I don't have a cool intro video or anything, so here's a montage of me doing random stuff to make it look like I have a lot of content.
Yo, please, bro, how do I fix this?
Alright, so first, I'm gonna get this guy on. Type in my passcode. I know I'll probably look stupid to you guys and to everybody. And we'll start screen recording here. There we go. Alright, so next, I have to go to my MacBook here, unlock it, and it should give us the option to connect. There we go. I'll put my screen here, and hopefully I don't like bash into the microscope there. But our goal today is to do a PlayStation 5 HDMI replacement through the Vision Pro instead of looking through the microscope.
Alright, so the way I have this set up, I have a 4K microscope camera that's pointing down through my scope, and that's connected to an HDMI cable, which is then connected to an HDMI capture card going into my MacBook Pro 2021 with an M1 Max. As long as it's on Sonoma, you can do this screen mirroring to your Vision Pro. So I'm kind of just getting everything set up here, trying to figure out where I want to put this window. Once I do, grab the handy dandy folder with all my little microsoldering parts in here, and we're going to grab an HDMI port for PS5, get our equipment turned on, and we're getting set up. So the one thing I did notice pretty much right away was that it's pretty difficult to do microsoldering by looking at a screen. You really have no depth perception, so even getting this HDMI port out of this little container was difficult. I know some people are really good at microsoldering with a screen, but I'm just used to looking through the scope, so that was a challenge for me. So at this point, I'm trying to just do this repair as I normally would, so I'll kind of walk you through those steps. First things first is to get some flux on these pins. I'm going to try and tin these pins so it sticks to the board a little bit easier. So I'm turning on my iron, getting the iron tinned, getting it cleaned, and this part was actually the hardest part, getting some solder on the soldering iron. I just could not match it up. It was super challenging, so you'll see me kind of fiddle with that a few times. But once I got some solder on the iron, I started off, and I realize now that I probably should have zoomed in a lot more, but this is typically the view that I work with through the scope. So at some point when I bridged right here, I said, F it, I'm just gonna get some solder all over these to get it nice and tinned, and what the screen disappeared. Found out that my MacBook went to sleep. And so I had to bring that back up again, but it was really weird. Once I got that up, I was lazy and I did not change the sleep settings. So I kind of left it as is, thinking like this is typically a 3-minute repair, so I'll probably be done with it before it goes to sleep again anyway. So let's speed this video up a little bit. And here I am unbridging all of these pins and getting some solder on there. Almost hit my head on the microscope right there, but luckily the Vision Pro is smart enough to tell me to back up. So here I am, just putting a good lead on each pin so it has some additional solder. So when it gets on the board, that solder mixes with the board and makes a nice connection. You can see how big this HDMI actually looks in front of me. It's bigger than my hands. The HDMI itself is probably about the size of a 24-inch monitor. So finishing this off, I am now adding some flux to the anchor points. And I do the same thing. Just kind of, struggle there again. There we go. Let's get some solder on these anchor points so it bridges really nicely with the solder that's on the board. And then I'm ready to get started. So I get my hot air out, put some flux on there, and that part was easy enough. What do you know? Get the fume extractor ready so I'm not going to die tomorrow. And we're going to work. I have my settings at 480. Oh my god, it disappeared again. Guess I was wrong. So let me wake up the computer one more time. Let's move this over here. And yeah, I probably should have changed it at this point, but I'm a risk taker. Let's see if we can make it. So here we go. Heating it up at 480 at 80 airspeed. Really, I'm only there for about 30 seconds at the most. Once it gets free, I remove it. And that's pretty much it. And I know it looks dirty. This actually was a roach-infested console. So we cleaned it up as much as we could. But now you can see me putting that new one back on. And I was a little worried about overheating it because it was really hard, again, for me to see the depth of how far that new HDMI was going down. But it felt right, so I went with it. Tried to take a look at it from the sides. It was completely useless. I couldn't see anything. It helped zero. So it was time for me to go and inspect. Let me put the hot air back. I think there we go. All right, then it was time to clean. So this was a relatively dirty console, so I did take a little extra time to get some of those black spots out, some of the extra crud. But once we were good, we're ready to get the rocket. Squeeze, squeeze. And blast some of that excess out of the way. And then come back with the swab to get it nice and shiny. And then it was time to inspect the work. Let's see how we did with the Vision Pro. First thing is to check on the inside. Did we burn it? No signs of meltage here. Just a little bit of flux that we got to clean out. And let's take a look at the pins. Again, kind of hard to get my vision in focus here. But once we did, checked it out, and I saw 2 pins on the left side that were still a little bit gold. So I did want to check those out to make sure that they were sitting down, but man, was it hard to hold the console and try to wiggle these pins at the same time. I wasn't quite sure, and I wanted to be sure, so I sat it down, readjusted our angle and our focus a little bit here, and then came back in, gave it a solid wiggle test, and it was steady as a rock. And with that, it was a wrap. So while this was a fun experiment, I definitely wouldn't consider soldering like this full time. I'm definitely going to stick with the scope. But I appreciate you guys following along with me. If you liked it, please subscribe to Please Bro Tech. You'll see more videos in the future. So I'll catch you on the next one. That was wild, man.